Howdy, Steve Park here. I decided on the way home that I really enjoy listening to people talk about random things that I might be interested in on a given day. For example, if I'm going, in this case, to a concert, I'm going to look up people that have been, people reviewing bands they've seen live that I may not have seen before, even if I have no interest in the band. I just like hearing people talk and share their experiences. And I realized that with the world we live in YouTube, that I should probably just upload my thoughts, really just for my own sake and fun. But also maybe someone out there Google searches this. And like me on a commute to work or when you're just relaxing at home, you just like having things playing in the background. So regardless, I was going to talk today about the Chaos and Carnage Tour 2018 that I attended here in Houston, Texas. It was at the White Oak Music Hall, which is a relatively brand new venue. It's beautiful, plenty of parking, at least in my opinion. Maybe on bigger shows it's an issue, but at least in this case, parking was amazing. This spot of downtown, well, it's not downtown, but it's in the kind of the rough edge of town in Houston, and you wouldn't expect this venue because it's pretty run down and not that appealing. And then you turn the corner and this brand new, beautiful venue is there with plenty of parking and outdoor stages and multi-level stages inside. So anyways, went to the White Oak Music Hall for the first time. It was an amazing place, beautiful on the outside, pretty well laid out on the inside. I could see it being a little crowded depending on who you brought in. And I have seen on their set lists and cards and such that they do have some relatively large shows there. So I can't speak to that. But as far as this tour goes, it was perfect. Started out around 4:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday. It was Sunday. And the local bands that were somewhat of an opening act were playing on a rotation upstairs. And the main bands slash main opening acts were downstairs. And I'll kind of get into that. But I really liked the format. So when I first got there, it was real relaxed. There weren't a lot of people there. It was just kind of hanging out. So we went upstairs to the small stage and watched some local bands play and jammed out. And it felt like you were hanging out with your buddies listening to them play. I'd never met these guys in my life, but they were like my age and they were just jamming out, having a good time. So that was good. It got us into the atmosphere. And then I went downstairs and finally went into the main venue hall where the main bands would be playing. And I kid you not, if you've ever been to the House of Blues in Houston, it is identical. If you stand back from like the bar, so you got the two bars at the back, and then you look forward and you've got like the mixing station and everything, and then the floor, and then these two columns with the stage. It was beautifully built. It had the same atmosphere as the House of Blues. It completely blew my mind because outside it's a very modern looking building, and it doesn't seem like you would have, good rock music here. Now in this case, it's more extreme deathcore and such, but it totally didn't seem out of the question that you could see some nice like classic rock bands playing on stage here. And it wouldn't feel out of place. So I love the venue. So I'm mainly going to talk about some of the bands that I saw on the main stage. Some of them I had never seen live before, but most of them I have, and most of them are my favorite bands. But the first on the list, I'm leaving out one because I not only don't remember the name, but they were so early in the day, most people weren't there, and they aren't even on the official card as an opener. So I'm pretty sure they were just the highest tier local opening band. And they were just fine, but it's really not even worth getting into if I don't know who it was. The first band that's relatively notable that was an opening act was Buried Above Ground. This is the one band on the card that I've never heard or seen, etc., going into this concert. And I wanted to keep it that way. I wanted to be surprised and see how it was going because every band on this list is amazing to me. So I was like, you know what? We'll just go in blind and see how it goes. And I must say I was pretty disappointed. If I had to sum them up, they are Emmure with aesthetic. They are a group of four guys, drummer, bass, guitar, vocalist. Literally, I know people make memes and jokes about deathcore and all these core genres just playing open top string, like gent style the whole time. But these guys were truly that. They basically would hit the synth, and it would play on a loop, some like eerie, feels like you're in a graveyard and zombies are rising up out of the ground, like background track. And so that's looping. That's the actual musicality of it. And then here come the bassist and the guitarist to the front of the stage with their like surgeon gauze bandage type wrap around his head, and like tons of like charcoal looking stuff smeared around his eyes. And they all looked grungy. And to be fair, I dug the appeal. They were just looked like filthy, dirty, getting down and dirty with their music, but also with how they looked. And I could get behind that because bands that kind of put on a little bit of a performance artistically with their look and atmosphere with their music, I dig that. And some of these other bands do that. However, their music did not match. Yes, it was dark, but it was the most generic piece of shit music I think I've listened to, except for Amur. And don't get me wrong, when you're just pissed off and you want to just headbang to a 2-minute song about I hate you, like it has its place, but it's terrible music. And these guys basically, I'm pretty sure they were tuned to at least drop, I don't know, G, I don't know, but basically the lowest tuning I've ever seen live, just playing open notes and being like trying to look as tough and dirty as they could. And it was the most repetitive thing ever. And so they were unknown to most of the crowd, and they played really generic music. And these guys had the mentality that, if we come in and play amazing breakdowns and sound really deep and disgusting, the crowd will love it. I'm not kidding. There wasn't even a pit. Like everyone was just kind of, I mean, we were all not bobbing our heads. It was music, but it was pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. And they seemed kind of pissed off that we weren't super into it. Like we were a shit crowd for it. But they literally just did not deserve it. So, we clapped, headbang, have a little fun. Buried Above Ground fails for me. They're an F. They were just awful. Hope they improve in the future. Every band has their highs and lows. Trust me, I used to be a huge Whitechapel fan, and I can't stand them anymore. It's kind of a different topic. But anyways, let's move on to Shadow of Intent. Shadow of Intent has been somewhat of a guilty pleasure of mine. I don't want to say guilty pleasure because they're not like the band I just mentioned, Amur, where they're complete garbage and everyone knows it, but you low-key listen to it on the side. Shadow of Intent's really unique, and this is their first year. Actually, I think December of this past year was their first time ever playing a live show. So props to them, because when they took the stage, they had the presence and control of a band that's been touring for 10 years, which some of these other bands have been. And I absolutely love Shadow of Intent. They mix like orchestral syncopations and synthesizers with deathcore vocals and heavy guitars, but then they also throw in solos, which is something that deathcore as a stereotype doesn't have. So amazing like skill, composition. It was beautiful, and I've been listening to them nonstop since about a month before this concert, and they're not too well known. If you're in the deathcore community, but if from the outside you've never heard of this band. But Ben Dwyer, I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, the vocalist is a monster. He's amazing. But anyways, these guys come out and basically they're on their first real tour ever, and they absolutely destroyed it. They were amazing. I was on the front row the whole time, a little bit in the pit every now and then, but their energy, their talent, they are better than the albums live. Maybe it's definitely the same, but maybe better. That was my favorite part of the concert, which is saying something, because the next band, Spite, is maybe my favorite band, like currently. And these guys, this is my second time seeing them live. If you haven't listened to Spite, you need to check them out. They're sort of they're in this niche genre that I still have trouble describing, but kind of down tempo, kind of deathcore, but they're kind of their own thing. If you've listened to, oh goodness, what's the other band that I listened to that's real similar? It'll come to me later. But anyways, the whole reason they've become popular and are loved by their fans is their energy, particularly Darius Tarani, their vocalist. He is the most mild-mannered, nice guy, but when you put him on stage and he gets in his zone where he channels all of the hatred that he has towards certain people and things in life that he's gone through, he becomes a monster. And you've never seen anyone put more energy and emotion into their vocals. And that's why he's amazing. Just look up Darius Tarani Spite cover and just look at him. So seeing that again, getting another picture with him, he's like a legend to me. He's the band that I have poster and flag of in my room, which you may remember from previous videos. Absolutely love Spy. I'm not going to talk about him much longer because I absolutely love them, and their energy is just insane. And luckily, the people in Houston have slowly become familiar with them and learned to love them. And so, although they didn't fit in with the rest of the bands here, who are very just deathcore, um, they know when to get down. Like these guys have a totally different style than the rest of the bands on the ticket, and they killed it. Spite's amazing, and I lost my voice definitely during their set. And then the last band that I'm really going to talk about is Oceano. Oceano is what I usually call my favorite deathcore band, period. Um, I just absolutely love Oceano. They are disgustingly heavy. The topics they cover are very relevant to today's times. That's pretty much the content of their last two albums, Revelations and Ascendance. I think I'm getting that right. Um, they're amazing, just absolutely. Their vocals, their whole composition, they're similar to Shadow of Intent in that, especially on their last album, Revelations, it's super synth heavy. And a lot of people criticize them for that, but it's different, number one. And number two, it's just pleasant to my ears at least. And they have a lot of talent. It's just super heavy, disgusting, filthy. You just feel really good listening to it. And they put on a killer show as well. And they're probably the most commercial of any of them here that I've mentioned at least, because the last band is Carnifex, and Carnifex is talented. They're very good. They're very unique, but unfortunately, their brand of unique just loses me. I can't handle it. So to be completely honest, I left, and it was partially because I did have work the next morning and I needed an excuse to leave early. So when the last band came on, the main event, Carnifex, I had no interest, so I left. So if you're a fan of Carnifex and you're considering going to this tour for Carnifex, you're not going to be let down. I can guarantee you. It's Carnifex. They do their thing. They're good. But I just don't care for their music. But overall, it was great. Typically, in a bigger venue, the crowd seems to be, I don't know, more shit. I don't know how to put it. Some of these, like when I used to go to like Warehouse Live, that one's relatively small venue. And then when I went to, oh shoot, Walters downtown, it's literally just like a garage downtown in an alleyway. Talk about tight-knit groups just hanging out, doing hood rat things. That's good times because everyone's there. They all just like got off of work and they want to take out their anger and just, you know, get rough together with this music. It's kind of like a family. But then you go to these bigger shows and it's just kind of more commercialized and everyone's there to just kind of move their head and relax. But surprisingly at this show, people were pretty cool. That was one of the coolest crowds I've been in. There was only like one crowd killer and everyone pretty much beat the shit out of him and told him to leave. And he did. Otherwise, you know, some good old moshing, you get knocked down, we pull you back up and push you back in. Just real cool atmosphere. So overall, if you're considering going to the Chaos and Carnage Tour, I imagine they're touring for the next couple of months still. Definitely go. Super cheap, which if you care about that kind of thing. But regardless, Shadow of Intent, Spite, and Oceano was the biggest 1, 2, 3 for me. Like those three bands are probably my most three-play bands on Spotify for me. Absolutely great music. So yeah, there's kind of the end of my rant. Just kind of talking about what I went through. Wonderful time, wonderful bands, wonderful venue, wonderful tour. So I will see you next time when we talk about something else interesting.